Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mind Shifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Rice, and his wife, Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the
Well, welcome to the show. It looks like we've got technical difficulties again today. I'm not sure what's happening. It sounds like we got our intro to run 1.5 times, and so I'm not sure whether you're hearing me or not. Maybe somebody, if you're listening, could send me a quick text if it's coming through. And I'm not sure where Jeannie is. She should be on the show, but who knows with these technical games that we get to play as we travel. In any event, we are in Orlando, Florida, and we are absolutely delighted to be here to share this space with you, to offer the support for the ancient internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. And one of our commitments in this process is to put an end to the state of war on planet Earth, to create such an awakening that we humans start to function once again as humans. And if you're not sure what human life is, I just invite you to hold a newborn child. That will tell you the whole story about human life. And I hear Jeannie in the background, I think. We got you, sweetie?
Yeah, it was really
cool.
weird because I got on the switchboard first, and then as soon as you came on, it kicked me off. So I have no idea. I had to dial back in. But anyway, we do already have a caller whenever you're ready for them. And there's nobody in the chat room, so I'm going to reboot it as well. I don't know if there's an issue there or what, but anyway.
Okay. Great. Well, we're glad you're with us, and we are in this game to end war, to create a world where humans function like humans. And our definition of a human life is hold a newborn child. There's nothing else required. If you know that, then you know what human life is. If you're not functioning as that, then you don't have a human life, and that's okay. Most people don't. They look like humans. They walk like humans. They don't talk like humans. They talk like multi-generational creatures of hostility, rage, fear, grief, pain, and trauma. And we're here to put an end to that game on planet Earth. And believe me, it can end. And we do it one person at a time. Each individual who chooses to take responsibility for their lives and breaks through the belief systems of the world that we have to function as hostile and fearful beings brings about a shift and brings about a change. And we're here to support you in that change. So welcome to the show. If you're not familiar with the forgiveness process we're speaking of, if you go to the right side of our website, www.whyagain.com, on the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. If you click on that link, the first 7 links will give you the whole story of forgiveness, the how-to, the worksheet process itself, and several radio shows where we give you personal, one-on-one guidance through the process. So come join us, get on the team that changed the world, and that's what we're here to do. And Jeannie says we've got a caller, so let's tap into our caller and say hello.
Area code 336. You're on the air.
Hey, Michael and Jeannie. It's Beth from Greensboro.
Well, hey there, young lady. I'm glad you made it today.
Oh, thank you very much. So much. I just wanted to thank you both so much and David for the amazing, life-changing experience last week.
It's pretty awesome what happens there, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I was able to listen to the show last night, the recording, and listen to Linda call in, and And that triggered my joy. Just hearing her voice, it was just beautiful.
Isn't it amazing the transformation that she went through and the aliveness that she's experiencing is just, and you know, to me, it's that kind of shift when you see people who really think it's pretty hopeless and helpless, but okay, I'll try it, and they make that level of change is just awesome. And I did share a little bit, if you listened to the show yesterday, I did share a little bit about your story, but we'd love to hear it from you personally because this is just another awesome piece of the puzzle.
It was so cool, and one of my biggest issues is a lot of anxiety and fear, and I've always kind of labeled myself as a nervous Nelly up until now, of course. So one area that triggered a lot of my fear was airplane, and I do a lot of traveling anyway because I have a big passion for travel, so that has always been one of my concerns when I'm traveling is the anxiety I experience in the flight, and then particularly it's the turbulence. So, of course, maybe there's some control issues there as well, but in order to numb, yeah, right, shocker, to numb the anxiety, I've been taking a Xanax, sometimes a Xanax and a Benadryl just to help me just go to sleep and not be aware of what's going on around me on these flights. And ever since I've been an adult, I've been doing that. And when I left on Sunday, heading to the airport, I just had this joy about me. I had some sadness for the intensive ending, but just some excitement for the new world that I felt like I was walking out into. And when I got to the airport, you know, my usual routine is I got to make sure I take it 30 minutes before I get on the flight so I'm not too late when I'm on there and all these thoughts running around in my head. And I thought about it, but I just knew that I was going to be okay. So I got on the plane, and the captain announced before we even took off that there was going to be some rough air on takeoff and landing. So right there, that would have been a white-knuckle trigger for me, even for the thought of that occurring. So I just immediately called on Ruka to be with me. And as the flight was taking off, I called on her again, and it was so awesome. I was sitting at the window seat next to the wing, and as soon as I said it, the sun hit the wing in such a way that this bright light, this reflection, it was so bright I had to close my eyes, and I just felt this huge grin come across my face because I felt so loved and supported in that moment. And even though it was a little bit rocky, I was fine. And the second flight was even worse as far as turbulence is concerned, but I still didn't, even on my layover, I didn't think about taking a Xanax. I knew I would just be fine. And on the second flight, they even stopped the service, the beverage service in the middle of the flight because the captain said we have some pretty significant rough air coming into Greensboro, and for the safety of the flight attendants, we're going to have them take their seats. Well, again, that would have been a huge trigger for me. I just went back to Ruka, asked for any fear and anxiety that would come up because I also saw it as an opportunity now that I know that when this comes up, it's up to be healed, and instead of something to feel anxious about, just to be with it and then invite love in to heal it. So the plane started rocking, and I started speaking to Ruka, and it was almost instantaneous. I felt the flight smooth out when I said it, and I even thought to myself, now did it really get smoother or just my perception of it? So it was just an amazing experience, and I felt so great after going through it. So that was an instantaneous, immediate change after those 9 days.
Awesome. Well, that's fabulous. And how's the rest of the world looking now that you're home and back in the world that gives you all the opportunities you need to learn forgiveness?
It's so exciting because I feel like I have a new filter that I'm seeing the world through as far as looking for seeing the good in everything, even if in the moment where I've had some conflict, but I haven't stayed with it as long. I've stepped back and maybe done some worksheets and just seen the opportunity that it's presenting versus living in the story of fear and hostility. So it's just amazing, and I feel so excited about continuing to do the work and watching my world continue to transform because I'm transforming.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, know that you have our support, and we'll be delighted to hear from you anytime you can come on the show with what's happening with the support group, and maybe share a little bit about your experience with taking over one of the support groups there in the Greensboro area, and we are working on perhaps coming up to Winston-Salem. So I'm not sure whether that's going to be in place, but if it does, we'll get to do another series there. See how it unfolds.
For anyone listening, in the Greensboro area, we actually have two different support groups. Brad runs one every Thursday night, and I do one every other Friday night. So if anyone is interested in joining us, we'd love to have you and share in this work, because it's just amazing. It works. If anyone's new to this, try it. If you've thought about doing an intensive, try it. It will change your world. And I also want to say to Jeannie, I think about Jeannie every day and the beautiful food that she made. And I know that it wasn't just the food, it was the love ingredient that Jeannie put into that food that made it so amazing. So I'm very, very grateful for that experience. And I miss you and the food so much.
Thank you, Beth.
Yeah, it's not easy. We've actually, we're in Orlando right now on a timeshare, so we've been juicing every day and continuing the program. So that's been pretty cool. And we're actually kind of in a race to finish the food that we had left over before we leave here on Saturday. So we've got a lot to go through. So we're enjoying continuing with the amazing food that we had at the intensive. So, well, we hold your support group in a blessing, and of course, the beauty of doing a support group is you teach what you need to learn. And for anybody who doesn't have support in your local community, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to know anything about the work. If you choose to do some training in the work, you can, but otherwise, what many support groups are doing is just, getting a copy of the videos and starting to show the videos as part of the process. And so, just feel welcome to move in that direction. Jeannie has, that's actually what Jeannie did. She, when I met her 7 years ago, she hadn't done a workshop or knew nothing about the work, and it was probably about 3 months down the road that I visited her area and did a workshop, and the next week she started a support group. And that support group carried on for, 3, 4, 5 years after we moved away from that area. And so pick it up, put it to work in your life, and if you want to learn it, teach it. And you can start with the videos, and just as you develop the skill, and or, of course, there's the 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again intensive. That's the one that Beth and Linda were just at. And we're actually kind of revamping our schedule for this summer. It seems like locally people are doing the intensives. We just did 2 9-day back-to-back full intensives, and it seems there's something with this whole new economy and economic situation about traveling. So we're actually going to cut back on our summer program this summer and just do a 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again and a 9-day teacher training. And for those who might want to do teacher training, we're going to, if you've done a 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again, and you want to come and do the Food, Fun, Forgiveness, and Work project, which would put you at Heartland for about, 9, 18, 19, 25, almost a month. We're actually going to open the space for people to review the 9-day intensive. Normally it's $15.75, but to do a review of it for $5.75 if you're registering for teacher training, and you're doing the Food, Fun, and Forgiveness. So that would be a really deep process for anybody that chooses to do that. And I'm working on some specials. We'll be putting them on the website probably within the next day or so. For people who've done teacher training before and want to review it, for people who just want to come and review the 9-day, we're going to actually, it looks like we're going to do about cut the price in half for those review folks who want to come do it. So if you're ready to take your work again to the next level, first intensive, second intensive, maybe if Julie happens to be on the line, she might call in. Julie Haverstick has been working with the work. She was at the first intensive this summer. Or pardon me, this series we did recently in Palm Coast, and Julie has probably done the Why Is This Happening to Me Again intensive, 25, 30 times, and I know that each time it's another breakthrough, and for myself, I know that I get breakthroughs each time I do the intensive. I get another level of insight. The work is always alive and always going and always growing, so. we'll ask you, just to keep an eye on the website for what those specials are going to look like. And, Jean, do we have another call or anything happening in the chat room?
We do have another caller, but before we go to that caller, I also want to acknowledge Beth that when Linda, the last day, she ran into some challenges during the night, and I believe that Beth and Lois both stayed up for hours with her in the middle of the night and helped her move through a process, and that was just awesome support. And so I think that was a big part of Linda's breakthrough, too. So thank you for being willing to do that.
For sure.
Thank you so much. What an awesome experience and opportunity to be able to provide that space.
It is, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, thank you both, and if David's listening, thank you too, David. I'm just so grateful to all of you, and that you live this work, you breathe this work, you sleep this work. The integrity is just amazing. So thank you from my heart.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Blessings.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling in, Beth.
970, you're on the air. Is this Nene?
It's Carrie.
Oh, hi, Carrie. How are you?
Good. How are you, Jeannie?
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah. And hi, Michael.
Hi, welcome.
I really love hearing that, the last lady, because I know panic attacks and that sort of thing is just so big in our culture right now. It's nice to hear somebody moving through it in a drugless way. The other day I was on, I think it was Rex maybe, was talking about the power person dynamic, and I had a question. I wanted to ask you how you develop. By the way, I just love the power person dynamic work. It has helped me phenomenally. It's been just an equally as good a tool for me as the worksheets themselves. And it's in the months that those are in the archives is April and May of last year, the power person dynamic and the codependence to interdependence in relationships. And boy, I listened to those 2 months of archives a number of times. And I wondered, how did you develop the power person dynamic work, and how would you relate it to the ancient Aramaic? I would love to hear a little history on that as far as how you came up with that. And it's just such an amazing piece of material. And I think could help just about anybody see, kind of how we replay things.
Well, if you look at the Aramaic, most people think of the Aramaic, which, if you're not familiar with that language, it's the language of at least 6 of the world's major religions. Most people think of it as a religious language, but it's not. Actually, most people aren't familiar with it. They think that what's taught in the Greek-oriented churches is that the Greek was first, that man named Yeshua spoke Greek and thought Greek and talked Greek. And I mean talked the Greek philosophy as his teaching, because that's what we're fed. And if the man named Yeshua, who's commonly known as Jesus, his name was not Jesus, the copy of a Greek god Zeus, his name was Yeshua. If he sat in most churches today, he'd say, that's all Greek to me. His language is primarily a physics language, a psychological language, a genetic language, and a physiological language. So the root of the power person dynamic comes out of the Aramaic idea of Yeshua and of the ancient prophets. If you talk to the people who speak Hebrew, Hebrew is a daughter language to Aramaic, and those who speak Hebrew will say all of their wisdom keepers were Aramaic. They spoke Aramaic. They thought Aramaic. And, if you've ever been with somebody who speaks a particular language, and let's say you're with a couple of people who speak French, and one of them is trying to translate an idea from French into English, and they'll turn to the other and say, well, how do you say, and they speak in their language, how do you say that in English? And the other person says, you can't. It's not possible. So to think that the subtlety of the Aramaic thought can be translated by the Greeks is like expecting a kindergarten child to give you a dissertation in nuclear physics. Not going to happen. But we hear this idea that says the sins of the fathers will be passed yea into 3 and 4 generations. That comes from the wisdom keepers. They're saying that we're replaying the patterns. It says, look to the lives of the fathers, for ours have been a shadow of theirs upon the earth. That's the power person dynamic. Now, over the years of working with that, it was actually a retreat center up in Indiana, Hartford City, Indiana, that for several years, while there was these two particular people who were running it, I would go and speak there every summer or every fall. And one year they asked what I was going to do the next year, and I said, well, let's do codependence to interdependence. I just picked a title out of guidance, out of the hat. And the week before the workshop, I had completed a series of workshops in Indianapolis, and they said, well, come up early and just hang out for a few days. I still had no idea what the codependence intensive was going to be. So I finished on a Saturday, spent Sunday in Indianapolis, and drove up to this retreat center, and the workshop was starting on Thursday night. On Wednesday night, I sat down and wrote the whole codependence workshop. Now, not in the form it is today, but in a rudimentary form with the basic power person dynamic. I had no idea how that was going to come together and what was going to happen, but what I was guided to that day was the power person dynamic and the dynamics of codependent relationships when we play the game of denial, dissociation, and blame. And so that's really where it started, and that was about probably 15 years ago now. And over the years, that the concepts of that particular workshop have refined until they are, in the form they are now. And then they've changed significantly in the last 6 months in terms of my understanding of those dynamics. And, as I learned more from the Aramaic and learned to decode and understand what was there, we still don't know what we don't know, and it's unfolding. But it is key in understanding how we function as this carbon-based memory system instead of functioning out of our human lives. And so, one of I think the most important ideas from the codependence workshop is to recognize if we are functioning out of the generational dynamics, which we call functioning out of carbon-based memory, then there are only 3 possible behaviors, and that is behaviors that are related to the power person, which is usually mom or dad. And you'll notice they had such a deep understanding in the ancient Aramaic that they had a law for everybody, and the law was you've got to hold a condition of Rachma. It was not you got to love your neighbor and the Creator. It was you hold a condition called Rachma when you think of the Creator, when you think of neighbor, in order to maintain self. In other words, in order to maintain a human life, you've got to keep this condition, which is actually in the frontal lobes of the brain, active. It's the gateway for human life. And so you'll notice that's the standard for everybody in the world except for one group of people. Most people go, well, what do you mean? What group is that? Well, if you think about the commandments, it didn't say love your mother and your father. It said honor them. And in Aramaic, honor is this thing called Rachma, this filter in the frontal lobes of the brain that opens human life. It is bringing action to that which shows up as your human life toward parents. So you'll notice it says, honor thy father and thy mother. Now, it doesn't say honor thy father and thy mother because they were wonderful or because they did great things for you, because they brought you into the world. It gives a very, very key reason, a very important reason for honoring your mother and your father. And it says that thy days may be long upon the earth. In other words, you're going to die real early if you had a mother and father, especially that lived in hostility or fear, and you play out of their dynamics. There's an interesting video which we just watched again last night. You can watch it on Netflix. You can order it. It's a National Geographic thing called Stress, Profile of a Killer. And it goes through, it's just awesome how it ties in and fits with and verifies the work. But in one particular case, there's this fellow who, he doesn't like baboons, but he's a researcher and he's researching stress. In fact, he says the baboons are nasty, they're mean, they're vicious to each other. And he says, I don't particularly like them, but he has a love for them because he's worked with them for decades. And he goes out into the wild and he researches these societies which are pretty vicious with each other. And then he recounts an event that happened that he was present for, and that was that this particular troop of baboons, and I guess baboons kind of gather in fairly complex societies, a very organized pecking order, and the one on the top who's most vicious beats up on the one who's beneath them, who beats up on the one who's beneath them, who bullies the one beneath them, kind of like human society, he points out. But there's a garbage dump, and they dump a load of tainted meat into this garbage dump, and this troop finds the garbage dump with this tainted meat and starts to eat from it. And he thinks it's just a terrible thing that happens because all of a sudden they find out this meat is tainted with tuberculosis, and a number of these baboons die, and he thinks this is just a tragedy. But actually, it's this awesome piece of information that is such a blessing to humanity and was such a blessing to this troop of baboons. Because the interesting thing that happened was that the baboons that died from tuberculosis from eating, now the whole troop, all of these baboons are eating this tainted meat. The only ones that died were the aggressive, mean, vicious males. They died. They were gone from the troop. Viciousness, all of a sudden, and it speaks of what viciousness does to a human form, it made that group of baboons, the vicious, aggressive males, susceptible to tuberculosis, and they died. And then, lo and behold, what happens is that the only ones left are the more docile males, you might say the more loving males, and the females who are very nurturing. And all of a sudden, there's this transformation in their society. And the whole society, instead of, the top dog beating up on the one beneath it, all of a sudden becomes one that's about taking care of each other, nurturing, grooming each other, instead of fighting and being vicious with each other, instead of somebody playing the top dog who can beat up on whoever gets in the way. And the transformation in this whole baboon society is just, and this guy's watching it as it happens. It moves from a vicious dog-eat-dog society like most human societies, or pardon me, I shouldn't say human, most non-human societies who are just following this genetic predisposition of the power person. It moves from a society of viciousness to a society of nurturing. And then, pretty much, I guess, in the wild, these baboons, pretty much their societies are pretty commonly vicious. And then he spoke of how other males would come into the troop and be accepted and would follow the pattern of the viciousness and, especially would be very vicious with females and dominating and that sort of thing. And the females of the troop and the other males that were there would take them in hand. And it's kind of like, the message was, we don't do that here. Excuse me. We're doing something different. And he said it took about 6 months for these vicious males that came in to become nurturers and grooming. And all of a sudden, their cortisol levels go down, their stress hormones go down, and these apes don't have, or these baboons don't have arterial sclerosis. They don't have brain damage from the stress of the cortisol and such of viciousness. And there's just a whole transformation. And this guy's drawing blood from these creatures all along, showing how it happens. If we live out of the power person dynamic, if we're dominated by the dynamics of the previous generation, then we tend to play out whatever's there. And so the three behaviors possible when playing out of an unconscious, non-choice role is when there's no stress, what a person will automatically do if they're functioning out of this carbon-based memory system is they'll do whatever they did to get along with their power person. And then if stress starts to build, they'll automatically move into doing whatever they did to resist and survive with their power person. And the third dynamic is when they become ultra-stressed, they'll do whatever their power person did to them that they hated the most. And that's what runs most lives. And it's interesting when you watch this video and then you look at what movies, what Hollywood is doing to America at every turn. Like one of the movies that comes to mind, and I just think it's disgusting, that Disney. And here I am. I'm in Orlando. We're just a mile from Disney here. They're a couple miles. But I think it's disgusting that Disney puts out a movie, supposedly a children's fantasy tale, and Alice goes down the rabbit hole, and the first thing that she's told by the Mad Hatter is that they've brought her there to kill somebody. And she says, I don't kill. And they ask her what's wrong with her. And the rest of it is about forcing her to kill, to turn into the kind of viciousness that carries out war, that carries out death, the kind of insanity that literally when you watch this stress, go to Netflix or, I'm sure there are probably other places online. We'll have to put a link to it on the website. Stress, Profile of a Killer. Watch it. Viciousness kills the body of the vicious. It destroys, it creates chemistry that destroys. They go into the brain research and they show pictures of the dendrites in the brain and how the complexity of the neural structure is destroyed by those cortisols that come from hostility and fear.
Michael,
it's just such a huge wake-up call.
That I had the opportunity to watch that. It actually was on YouTube last spring, and it sounds like it was an earlier version of it, but it is incredible, the research he did with the baboons and that transformation that happened. It is really phenomenal and how it affects the entire physiology. And so I should check and see if it's still on YouTube. It was an hour-long National Geographic piece on there.
Yep, and, that's the one.
Yeah. Oh, man,
that's one.
So
it may still be on YouTube. That's awesome. But folks, you might want to take a look and watch that. And it's interesting because the conclusion, and I'm actually planning, along with the other 1,000 things we have on our plate with taking this work globally, what I'm planning to do is to contact everybody that was in that video and provide them with a copy of the workshop, Getting the Stress You Need, because the conclusion that they come to in the video as a solution is the people that are in control don't have that kind of stress. But if they had the brain cells to see it, what they describe is not the people who are in control, but the people who live in cooperation and love with each other don't have the stress. It isn't the ones at the top of the chain who are in control. It's those who are functioning lovingly. It's the first law. And this man Yeshua 2,000 years ago was such a genius to say the first law of survival, the first law of human existence is you keep a condition of love in your mind. And now they're showing with the research that it keeps the corticosteroids down and extends your life. Honor thy father and thy mother means that you get to clean up the parts of you that are in hostility or fear, and your days get to be longer on the earth. I mean, it's just like we've got such documentation today to back up what was said 2,000 years ago in the ancient Aramaic. If we can just find the brain cells to understand what was being said 2,000 years ago, and of course, that's what this work is all about. So,
that is
thank you for the question.
Incredible piece of work. Thank you so much for kind of going through the explanation of that again. It is phenomenal. It's so good. It's really, really, unwinding it enough to make it so we can, have a kind of map to follow. It's really great.
Exactly. That's the idea. And of course, our commitment is to put it out there and make it available to people, because if we hide it away somewhere or we make it cost a fortune for anybody to get a hold of, our world continues in the downward cycle and the deterioration of the insanity that's going on. And what we're looking to do is to restore sanity to human mind and to the human world, and by recognizing just who we are and how we're designed to function. So we invite you to join us in taking this to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. Our website is www.whyagain.com. You can download the forgiveness process, which is the key stress management device of the planet. It was taught 2,000 years ago. We've decoded it from the Aramaic and brought it into English, and it's all there for you to download freely. You can download my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, from the website for free, and go into the forgiveness process. And the forgiveness process is a tool, not with which you let other people off the hook for what's happening inside of you, but it literally is the tool with which you go inside yourself and remove what never belonged. And guess what never belonged? Hostility and fear, those non-human attributes that the world brainwashes into us, and that it's time for us to just deal with and get rid of. Time for us to change. So
thanks,
thank
Michael.
you for
I'm going to hang up. Thanks.
All right. Blessings. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. And we have two callers. Both of them are area code 954. So the first one is 954-626. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey there. Welcome.
This is Nene.
Well, hey there, young lady. Welcome.
Thank you. What a magnificent explanation, Michael. I love when I hear the explanation over and over. It's just wonderful. Thank you for that.
Delighted. Glad to be on the team. Glad to have you on the team.
Thank you. Well, last night we had the Latin support group. We had awesome people, and we did the purpose and commitment, talents, purpose in life, personal power, and we did the first part, and then next week we're going to do the second part when we talk about the glands. So, but it was very interesting, very powerful, beautiful. Everybody was doing their list of their talents and what they want to do, and then what everybody read their ideal world, and how they created how each one of them wants to use their talents and create that second purpose. But it was beautiful. At the very beginning, people couldn't even do three, they couldn't even list 3 talents or 3 things that they really like to do. So we realized that in the group that sometimes we're so detached from ourselves because we're just, like you say, we're just being servants of commercial servants. And so it was beautiful. Then the energy started changing, and we did our Rucha de Kusha invocation. So it was just really, really powerful.
Fabulous. Well, that's just awesome. And what's the next event that you've got happening down there?
Tomorrow, Friday, we have the English support group in Boca Raton at Gustavo Barney's house. And some of the people of the Latin group that speak English, they're going to come. I have 3. So we're going to have we're expecting around 15 people tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yep. So, if everybody's interested, just call me, 954-607-9539. And please call and, reserve your space, and because it's a beautiful home, and we want to make sure that we have the support material for everybody, and we love to have everybody there. Tomorrow it's healing through relationships. That's one of my favorites.
I hear you. I understand.
Yeah. And also,
very cool.
I would like to say, Michael, that I've noticed, the last 9 months, 10 months, how my life has cleared up, starting my relationship with myself, then with my daughter, and then the health, and then being really involved and finding this beautiful purpose in my life and aligning my power. And then finally I got my green card after 14 years.
Awesome. Congratulations. You worked for that one, didn't you?
Yeah, remember? Oh, wow. I did so many worksheets around the issues and all that. And it really, in the last 4 months. It was one thing next to the other, one document, the interview, this and that, and boom, so fast. And I remember that last interview was about a month ago, and when I entered, before entering, I connected to my source, and I entered my interview, and I just breathe, and I stay very into my magnificent self, of course. And I came out of there, trusting whatever it is. And she told me at the beginning, perhaps 60 more days you have to wait. And you know what? 3 weeks later, I had it in my hand.
She didn't know what hit her, right?
Yeah.
Nothing like the active presence of love.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nice work.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Very cool. All right. Blessings. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, what great news. I mean, it's awesome to watch how many people are putting the tools to work in their lives, and just to hear the changes. I mean, folks, if you haven't been listening to the show, go to the archives and listen to the last 4 or 5 days, and you'll just hear some of the most magnificent things and this is normal. This is what we humans are designed to experience. And so, fabulous. Great work.
And we have another caller, area code 954942. You're on the air.
Hey, Michael, it's Lois.
Well, hey there, young lady. How are you? Oh, I lost your voice. Are you still there? Hello, Lois. We lost you.
It looks like you dropped off. Lois, call back.
Call back in. Something happened to the connection. Don't know what it was, but call back in. We'd love to hear from you, Lois. Lois is a therapist that lives in Boca Raton and was at our intensive this past week, and some awesome changes in her life, and I hope she's calling to share what those changes were.
We have about 17 minutes. The call-in number is 646-200-4169. And this isn't Lois, but we do have a caller, area code 786. You're on the air. Who do we have?
Hi, Jeannie. It's Dayu. How are you?
Hi, Dayu.
Hey there, young lady. We are well. How are you?
Okay, great. I just wanted to call in and report about relationships. I heard what Nene said, and it's so true. When you're setting an intention that you want to be in a state of love, then all the relationships that are out of that state will then start gravitating there. So it's been very interesting to watch in my own life how even people that I interact with maybe briefly for a weekend or two when I go to Chicago, that if there were any negative interactions in the past, it's switching over to being more harmonious, and these are casual relationships. These are not like deep relationships or anything, but even in those relationships, the shifts are beginning to happen. So you're coming from having restored love to that person in your heart and mind and soul, that then starts showing up in the interactions that take place between you. So I wanted to reiterate, Nene and I did our training at the same time, and 9-10 months down, you can see it. You can see it everywhere. You can literally see it across the board, from your closest relationships to your more insignificant ones, or should I say not so critical ones in your life, but it's still, the shifts are happening. It's really powerful.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to watch, and from the point of view where we get to sit, and we get to see people do this over and over and over, and just clean up issue after issue after issue. It's just fabulous to watch how reliably it works, and to recognize what we as human beings are really capable of.
Right. And I don't know what your topic for today was, if you had a topic, but I just want to emphasize also that sometimes just a few minutes of breathing when you're feeling the stress is so empowering. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever works for you or whatever helps you ease that out. But that breathing is pretty darn good.
It's powerful, isn't it?
Powerful to release your stress. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. Anyway, I just thought, and thanks for calling me this morning. I'm really glad we had that conversation, and it reconnected me to the radio show. So I'll call in now whenever I'm aware that it's 1 o'clock and that I have time. Thank you. Thanks, Jeannie. Hope everything is well with you, too.
Yeah, just set an alarm on your phone. That's what I do. So I remember, because, of course, it gets busy and time flies by, but I just set a 5-minute alarm on my phone and have a reminder.
Okay, cool. Great. Okay,
all right,
thank
have
you.
a good one. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Thank you, Deo. All right, I think this is Lois that's back, 954.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, welcome back.
Thank you. I think I got a little confused because I'm listening to the radio and I'm here now.
Cool.
And
awesome.
my report is I'm speechless to describe just what life is just happening through me. It's effortless.
Mhm.
That's the best way I can describe what's going on for me. It just
tell me more about what that means. You're saying since the intensive? Of course, that's only a few days ago, but
yes,
since the
it's just what
does that mean?
I just don't have to think about what needs to happen. I just do.
You mean you're out of your mind?
I'm totally out of my mind.
Isn't that an awesome place to live?
Yes, it is. And as I watch, and I've watched myself as I've been working with my clients. I heard you in the beginning mentioning that I'm a therapist in Pompano Beach, and I just the knowing of what needs to be presented to my clients in the moment just happens. There really hasn't been any need for any kind of preparation, and I'm just watching how each session has unfolded and how I'm presenting the work to them in a way that's just relevant to where they're at in that moment. So there's instant rapport.
That's fabulous.
It's beautiful, and I just feel so privileged to be able to be of service in this way.
Well, that's awesome, and I'm hoping. You were talking about the possibility of your office being available, so I hope we can hear more from you about that.
I will look into the office space this coming week. Yes, it's been on my mind, and I've had some. For someone who just said she was out of her mind, it's on my list of things to follow up with.
Cool. And we're going to be down there the latter part of May, and so hopefully we'll gather everybody that was at the intensive, and Nene and Dayu. We'll just get everybody together and meet and see how we can solidify support groups that really creates alternatives for support for everybody. Michael and Margaret are doing a support group. Folks who were at the intensive the week before in Boca, so that whole coast is going to take a whole new level of support in making this an actuality. So thank you.
Oh, my bless. And then just on a personal note, in terms of my personal healing, my eyes are doing great. Just the vision and the lack of, the relaxation and the pressure that was healed through the still point breathing is there, and my expectation is that I get even more healing as I continue to do the breathing.
Well, we hold the space, and that's just awesome, and very cool.
And
all right, well, we'll look forward to seeing you in a few weeks, and hearing back from you soon about the space there.
Great, you got it.
Okay, blessings. Take care. Thanks for the call.
Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Awesome. And now we do have another caller, and it's a Skype caller, so I'm not sure where you're calling in from because it just shows up as 111. So Skype caller, you're on the air. Who do we have?
Hello?
Yes, hi.
Hello, welcome to the show. Where are you calling from? Who? Give us a name.
I'm calling from Orlando. My name is James.
Oh, hey, Jay, welcome. We're in Orlando, too.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Yes, I just heard something about the eyes because I've been having some issues with my eyes also.
Brian?
Yeah,
well, what happened, actually, Lois, maybe if you're available, you might want to just a quick call back in and share what took place, but Lois has had some significant eye challenges with her eyes tracking and such for several years, and during, one of the things that we teach, two of the things that we teach in the intensive are hands-on energy field work and still point breathing. And as Lois came out of the having had the energy field work done on her in the still point breathing, as she sat there, and her eyes kind of don't track. You can see that they don't track the same way. And as she's sitting there, all of a sudden her eyes are tracking. Her vision became clearer, and she was able to feel. She could just sit and feel the softening of everything that had locked stress into that area of her body. And so that's one of the byproducts of forgiveness when you start letting go. And, of course, we teach a process called still point breathing, which is about how to use the breath to remove stress and trauma from the structure. And so that's part of the training that we do in the intensive. And I don't know if by any chance Lois, maybe stayed on the line and has called back in because she could share more specifically from her perspective what happened. Jeannie, do we have her on the line by chance?
No, she's already hung up.
Oh, okay. So
if you're still listening, though, Lois, you might want to dial back in.
Yeah, that would be cool. And otherwise, what I would suggest doing is start out by going to our website, www.whyagain.com, and on the right-hand side there's a link that says Download Worksheets, and start to work with the worksheet process and the forgiveness process, which forgiveness, in the Greek language, we're taught that forgiveness is about, you did something really terrible that caused all this pain inside of me, but in the ancient Aramaic, it's actually a tool with which you go inside yourself and change the content of your own mind, and the mind functions through every cell in the body. So if there's some sort of hostility or fear that's stored, for instance, in the eye muscles, then there's going to be some distortion in the muscle, which is going to cause a distortion in the eyeball. And if you can touch into that, I know for me personally, when I was a kid, I started wearing glasses as a young child, and throughout all my adult life, I've always had to wear glasses to get a driver's license until about 7 years ago. And this is, several decades of wearing glasses to get a driver's license. And about 7 years ago, for the first time in my life, I got my driver's license without glasses. Now, of course, we're supposed to go in the other direction. We're supposed to get worse with age. Well, one of the frauds of the world is to keep people in fear about what's going to happen. And if you keep people in fear, as that video we spoke about, stress, profile of a killer, if you keep people in fear, that's what creates the deterioration of the immune system and the whole tissue structure. Handle the fear, let go of the fear, and you turn it around. There's a quote that was put out by a group called the DeCourcy Clinic in Cincinnati. This goes back about 4 decades ago. And I heard this quote once in a presentation that somebody did. I actually don't even remember who did the presentation at this moment, but the quote I've always remembered verbatim. It was so dramatic to me to hear. And here's what this medical group said about aging. Quote, "Time is not toxic. Time has no effect on human tissue under any condition. It is the belief in the effects of time by those who subscribe to such a belief that acts as a poison. And so forgiveness is about giving up the beliefs of a world of hostility, rage, grief, pain, and fear, and starting to create a human world, which is a world based in cooperation, in the presence of love, and in this awesome thing called a human life. And we define a human life as hold a newborn, and you know exactly what a human life is. So that's what we're here to restore with all of the tools that we teach. If you're interested in taking your work to the next level, you know, we're going to be a little distance away, but starting not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, we're actually going to do 6 days of free workshops in Jacksonville, just a couple of hours from here. I guess it's about 3 hours. But Sunday afternoon, the first Sunday of May, we'll be speaking at the Unity Center and on Lomax. And then Sunday afternoon, and I don't recall the time offhand, but you can go to our website under Travel Workshops and download the flyer. We'll be doing the main workshop we do free on forgiveness on Sunday afternoon, the first Sunday in May. So you'd be welcome to try to take a drive over for Sunday afternoon, and/or stay all week, because we'll do Sunday afternoon, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. Will be all free workshops. And then Saturday, there is one workshop that we do charge a fee for, and Saturday we'll be doing Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing, the workshop that Lois was just speaking about, where she really got a shift in her eyes. Now, the idea of the workshop is not to create that kind of change. The idea is just to enhance the understanding and the tools for doing your work. The result that Lois got was not a result of the Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing. It was a result of doing her work, and the Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing just took her to the next level of her process. So, did you say that Lois was with us?
Yes.
Oh, great. Lois, this gentleman has been dealing with some eye issues, and I know we've got a few minutes left. I think we're down to about 4 minutes or so. So
okay.
If you would care to share, that would be awesome.
Michael, I'm just calling to just say that you did an excellent job in describing what happened. There's really nothing I can add, and I just wanted both you and the gentleman to know that. You were very clear in the description of what occurred to me.
Okay, and maybe if he has a question for you. Do you have a question for Lois?
Yes. No, I have a general question. Where are you guys located in? Do you do any activities in the Orlando area?
Well, we're not doing anything while we're here. We're actually kind of vacationing while we're here in Orlando, and then we're heading to Jacksonville to do a series of workshops there. We are going to be touring Florida again in 2014. It'll be 2 years from now. And if we had a venue in Orlando, it's actually a town that it's been several years since I've presented here. There actually used to be, interestingly enough, an ophthalmologist in Winter Park that used to sponsor my workshops. Unfortunately, he since passed away, and so I haven't presented in the Orlando area in several years, but I would be delighted in 2014 if we can find a venue that's large enough to sponsor a workshop to come back. And, when we do this sort of thing, we pay our own expenses and the workshops are free. So the closest thing we'll be doing will be the first week in May in Jacksonville, so you'd be welcome to come and join us there. And, of course, we'll be doing our Why Is This Happening to Me Again 9-day intensive, and that's the workshop that Lois was part of that produced that result. We'll do that at Heartland in July. I think it starts July 23rd. So you can check our website for information about that. And, unfortunately, our show is just about over. If there's more we can do to support you, in the meantime, download the worksheets and do some, but call us back tomorrow, and we'd be glad this discussion. And we're delighted to be here to support everybody, and we thank you for your input and the loving support of everybody that's creating support groups and working with and supporting others. And the show, the folks that are on it are just awesome, and we appreciate you a lot. So we'll say blessings, bring a stranger to the show tomorrow, and have the best year yet of your eternal life. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Rice, and his wife Jeannie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeannie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.